Welcome back, everybody, to another live stream. And I am super excited about our guest today. We have Jeff Frane, who you might know from the brand AllCity. He created that brand, and it's got such a cool origin story. We're going to talk about that, what he learned from working on AllCity and his new venture, Wilde Bikes. But before we bring Jeff on, I do want to remind you guys to check out the merch store. That's how I keep this internet thing going. We have got our Punky Brewster color theme party paste ESI grips, silicone. They're made in the US. And the closest way I can describe these things is it's like noise cancellation for your hands. And if this pink and aqua is just too spicy for you, got you covered. We've got a dark gray. I think this might be their black. It says black, but it's a very dark gray, as well as our stickers. I was telling Jeff a second ago that I'm actually a sticker salesman with a YouTube channel. All that said, let's have Jeff on the show. Welcome, Jeff.
Hi. I'm curious as to what this photo of me that people are seeing, because apparently it's very serious.
I think it's the one with you in the green jersey doing the MTB racing. That might be it.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
The fat bike racing. It's serious business.
Yeah. Serious face. Cool. Well, for those, I'm sure you're probably tired of telling, the origin story of AllCity, but I think it's just so cool. Do you mind getting into that? Like, it sounds as if you were working in shipping and then pitched the idea of the brand.
So, I was unemployable, when I got out of college. I had 2 liberal arts degrees. And so, you go work in the bike industry because that's what you do when you major, in comparative studies and religion.
So as you do, as one does,
as you do. So yeah, I ended up at QBP, in the warehouse, bottom run, part-time, picking, packing, labeling, seasonal part-time, like literally the most entry-level thing. And, I dug it, and I dug right into the culture, and because I was already organizing things in Minneapolis, throwing Alley Cats, the AllCity Championship, Bike Jerks was kind of in its infancy, but still kind of a thing. I became, the bike culture guy, and specifically the fixie guy, at Q. And so they had this brand, Dimension, and they had some stuff, but they didn't have any of the good, QBP didn't have any of the good stuff I wanted. I was buying stuff from Euro Asia Imports. I was buying stuff from Soma, Everywhere skid tires, like that whole jam, toe clips and straps. And so I started a dialogue with Lisa, who was the Dimension brand manager. And I was like, oh, if you brought in these hubs and did different colors and bring in double toe clips and straps and cogs and lock rings and all this stuff, it'll go. And the stuff went because that's what people wanted. And people, want the convenience of buying it from Q. Mm-hmm. And so through that, I built up some trust with some people, and I was like, well, we need a track crank. There's no affordable 144 BCD track cranks that just doesn't exist. 130s exist, but not track stuff. But I was like, nobody wants to buy a Dimension track crank of any kind of quality. The brand just doesn't have any equity. It's, it's just very basic commodity stuff. And so I was like, let's call it AllCity. Did this thing, and I wrote an email and blah, blah, and nothing happened. So then I was like, screw it. I'm going to go for broke. And I emailed Steve Flagg, and I'm like, Steve, this is the plan. And it was it wasn't a plan at all. It was it was a name. It was we'll call it AllCity, and I'll do these cranks, and, we'll see where it goes. And he said yes, which was a mind-blowing thing. I was fixing forks and the STC at that time, which is QBP's, suspension repair. And, they weren't going to hand anything over to some dumb warehouse kid that they didn't know. And so Lisa became the first brand manager of AllCity. And, I started 10 hours a week, and then it grew to 15 and 20. And, that's kind of how I got rolling. And it was fun because nobody really cared. It was so low stakes that there really wasn't a ton of oversight. And Lisa was awesome, and she was very open to my suggestions. And so it was it started off with, oh, let's build a budget fixie, knowing damn well that I don't want to ride a budget fixie, right? And so it's like, just to like get the project going. And then it's like, I've done the market research and there's a lot of people at $500. Let's make $1,000 fixed gear and like, let's make it dope.
Right.
And that's how the big block came about.
Nice.
We ride track bikes in winter, but riding a track bike in winter sucks when you can only fit a 23C tire. So it was like, let's build a true track geometry bike. And, let's make it nice and let's do the Hennepin Bridge dropouts. And, so we kind of backdoored a bunch of stuff in. And, Lisa was there as the brand manager for the first several years. And then as I kept growing and they grew to trust me, they needed Lisa on a different project. And boom, I got the nod. And then I was, doing it and we were off to the races. And, it grew and it expanded. And I just read Kyle's comments like, yeah, do you have to dress up a little bit? Kyle t-shirt on. They're like, oh, you can see where the clouds. So I was like, no, we're going straight button ups.
So what was that timeline from like, being in the warehouse to
hold on one second. I just want to show people that I got this shirt on, but I'm still in the sweatpants.
Nice.
Same as it ever was.
So what was the timeline from hitting the warehouse floor to them to Lisa being appointed the first brand manager?
That was 2019. Maybe it was spring of 2018 when I wrote that email. So it wasn't long. It was like 2 years that I was doing, warehouse stuff, but I have lots of ideas and all I needed was someone to listen. And I'll give QBP all the credit in the world. They were super receptive and it was a pretty special and unique thing. Not many people get the chance, get that kind of opportunity.
Right.
And I had to earn it. Like I said, like I was 10 hours a week and then I was 15 hours a week and then I was 20 hours, and like, it was a thing, but yeah, it really wasn't that long that I was in regular QBP.
Yeah.
We like the idea for AllCity started in 2008. And I want to say that we showed at Frostbike 2019 or 2009, like the first big block prototypes.
Mm-hmm.
And we got that, like the first AllCity labeled product, I think January of 2009. So, and
was it was a bike or was it a crank?
The first thing we ever got was like a T-shirt because the time was, it was rebranding the Dimension hubs and the track pedals and the double clips and straps and the crank, the 612 track crank.
Yeah, cool. So let's see. We've got 95 people in the live stream here. Let us know if you guys own an AllCity bike in the comment section. Love to see that. So AllCity started primarily as a fixed gear brand. At what point did you expand the gears? And why?
It was track stuff for sure. And then it was Fixie Freestyle when that was a thing. And the Nature Boy was the first kind of product that we kind of stepped out of that in its, it was a very natural evolution because, I've always ridden everything, all facets of cycling I participate in. I love them all. And I'd started doing bandit cross races here, organizing that scene here in Minneapolis. And it was, what could we make that we think fits with our audience? Because our audience loves single speeds. That would have a little bit more capability, but still like be squarely in our wheelhouse, that bike messengers would be into, that urban cyclists, that, weirdos, who want to race single speeds would be into.
Right.
And, like, of course there was pushback. It's like, oh, that's just a cross check, like, because everyone's like, the Simpsons did it. It's like, that's how it was. But it's like Surly did it. It's like, yeah, they did it. But like, it's different,
Right.
We've got some different ideas, and utility wasn't our thing. That's Surly's thing. Our thing was a little more specific, and try to be a little more aggressive and racy. And I kind of think that was one of the the fact that we've always liked also going fast. Like party pace is cool, into it, but I'm also into riding bikes hard, competing, competition, traditional forms of cycling as well.
Mm-hmm. So let's talk about the Space Horse, because that's kind of an interesting bike. I actually bought that bike when it came out. Like I was aware of AllCity as a brand, but it didn't really resonate with me. And then I saw the Space Horse. I was like, ooh, there's something going on.
Yeah, so the Space Horse was this huge bike for AllCity. It opened up so many like doors, like in terms of bike shops. It opened up so many minds because it wasn't a niche bike. It was a bike that had all kinds of applications, and it's not like it was groundbreaking at all. The Crosscheck had existed for a decade, before we rolled out that bike. But I thought that so Anna Schwinn was the AllCity engineer at that time. That was before there was like an ID, a separation between engineering and like ID. And so like that beautiful dropout, that was all her, as was the geometry, and she absolutely crushed it. Like at the time, I didn't really like the Space Horse.
Really?
I was into track bikes. I was into like it had a long wheelbase, it had 440 stays. It had a 75 mil bottom bracket drop. Like it was the most outside of our wheelhouse product. And I was kind of like, on it at the time. And now it's really the only AllCity I still ride. Like I love that thing. It's a stone cold classic. And it was awesome, gravel geometry before like gravel geometry was really, really a thing. And like, I'm still really proud of like, so I had I'd own a Crosscheck. Like all of us own Crosschecks, right? Like that's, as a bike person, at some point in your life, you own a Crosscheck.
Right.
And like a number of times I had like, for instance, pulled the wheel out, putting down power, single speed, and like zip that wheel out. So like the dropouts that Anna designed with the little lip on it to solve that issue. Like, I thought there were all kinds of cute little touches. And yeah, I'm super stoked to like a canny, all the AllCity canny stuff to me is aging just superbly well. Like these are, what we hope for. These are classic bikes that I think will always be useful. They're pretty and they're functional. And the Space Horse opened all the doors, and it was funny because we had to fight for that one. Upper management didn't like it, and I get it. It's like we already have the casserole, we already have the Crosscheck, and now you guys are making one. It was like, yeah, but you guys sell 1 million Crosschecks. Like certainly we can sell a bunch of these. And for so many shops, like that was the bike they wanted. And they got into the Space Horse, but then we snuck them some Nature Boys, and we snuck them some Mr. Pinks and some other stuff as well. But that was very much the gateway.
When you were talking to management, what was the value proposition of the Space Horse? Like, what was the reason behind it?
I mean, this is like real talk, like for real. Like it was just, we know we can sell the shit out of this bike. Like, are you kidding me? Like it's a cuter Crosscheck. Like it's gonna go, and it has the really nice details, the stainless dropouts, all that stuff. There couldn't be a surer bet. And the fact that our whole thing was that yes, the casserole and the Crosscheck exist, but we're carving out a different customer niche than those brands. There's overlap because of course there is. Like there isn't a brand in the industry that doesn't overlap with Surly. Like Surly is just ubiquitous, and their bikes are so utilitarian that they fill every niche, right? It's like, yeah, there's overlap, but my customer is different. The AllCity customer, and the shop, I think was a little bit different, a little more urban. Yeah.
So when you were working at AllCity, how did you guys decide which bikes to come up with? Was it a matter of responding to what you thought would be trending, or trying to set the trend?
I mean, for the most part, it was just building what we wanted to ride. Like that old chestnut, like really rang true. Like we didn't really make anything that we weren't interested in. We had, track racers in the building. Anna was a track racer. Like we're going to do an aluminum race bike because the Big Block is not a track race bike. I was all in on Alley Cats. I think that Alley Cats were the realest form of racing. It was just the toughest, roughest, it's just cool, man. Like, it just doesn't get any better than that. And, from the Mr. Pink, I was like, I want my dream Alley Cat bike. I want to be able to fit 32s in a bike with fast geometry, because that didn't exist at the time.
Right.
And the same with the Nature Boy. And then, it was like, oh, this bike is really great. Like, let's throw gears on it. And and then the Reynolds 853 race bikes and the Cosmic Stallion when we, really got into gravel and wanted to build something that was a legit steel gravel racer for people.
Right.
It was really, there was never a time when anyone at QBP and upper management was like, you need to build this bike.
Right.
At that time, it was, it was very loose. It was low stakes for them.
Mm-hmm.
And so they were largely hands off, I think, to their credit.
Was there anything that you pitched that you wanted to see the light of day, but eventually got nixed?
Nothing that I can really think of. I had a strong vision and a strong will, and I pushed pretty hard for the things that I believed in, often to my detriment. But I never claimed to be reasonable. So and we made some weird bikes. Like the JYD was a weird ass bike. The Log Lady was we're gonna make this incredibly high end, some of the best steel out there, the best factory. Like we're gonna make this incredibly high end 27.5 single speed with a rigid fork. Like all the other bikes in that category were significantly more affordable. Was like, no, we're just going to shoot the moon and build like the best one we possibly can.
Right.
So a lot of the bikes weren't like huge volume sellers, but they're what we wanted, and we did it.
Yeah, definitely memorable bikes. In your head, when you imagine an AllCity customer versus a Surly customer, since there is some overlap, what is the differentiating points?
I mean, the word hip is so, kind of, I don't know, it's a little gross. But the little more urban, a little more maybe fashion conscious, stylish. I think of, I don't know, I'm going to get myself into trouble here. Because I don't want to sound like I'm disparaging anyone's style, because all styles are dope as hell, but right. I think of Surly, I think of super dirty Carhartt, that business.
Yeah.
And
it's more like a tool, it's like a tool bike to me in my head.
I mean, obviously, it all, it's a spectrum of people. But I guess, the AllCity audience was specifically younger. Mm-hmm. That was a thing. And our whole thing in the early stages of the brand was this concept, this customer profile of get in, fit in, stand out. So it's we had products at the get in stage, the way we it was you're on your fixie conversion, you're riding your college backpack, and we have our cranks and we have our standard hubs and we have these things for you. And that's when you're getting into the community and getting into the urban scene. And then there's the fit in stuff, and then there's the standout stuff. Right. And so we were really trying to get that younger, because, there were a couple of years where, at the U of M here, pretty much when you got your acceptance letter, they mailed you a chrome backpack and a flip flop hub. And it was all right, you're in, welcome to urban cycling, yo.
Here's your welcome package.
Yeah, they get that. When if they didn't mail them to you, they handed it out at orientation, that kind of business. Right. And so, very specifically, we were in that 18 to 30-year-old age group. Of course, as I got older, I kept pushing. It's oh no, now we're for 35-year-olds kind of thing. It's oh, now we're for 40-year-olds.
To me, that's kind of what it seemed like a little bit. There was, people that got in at AllCity when it was, hardcore track urban, and then maybe they wanted some gears and start to do gravel. So there was there seemed like a natural growth and maturing or expansion of the brand.
Well, and we wanted to, so that we kind of started off with this narrow idea of a very focused thing. And then we started making bikes like the Space Horse, which is the gateway to, you can explore touring, you can explore gravel, you can explore road biking, you can really start to explore all facets of cycling. And I think you saw that in the growth of all the product that it got. And plus, we changed, or urban cycling changed. When I started, if you showed up at an Alley Cat with gears, you'll never hear the end of that. It was a very big faux pas. Right. And then, it all, that rule went out the window, and it all got opened up, and I don't know, we all grew together. And that was the cool thing, was that we got to grow along with the riders, along with our shops. Sometimes we got to lead them, and sometimes they led us. But it was cool because it was just like, if AllCity was nothing else, it was a constant evolution. And I think that's kind of why why it was special, because we never stopped changing and stopped growing and stopped encouraging people to explore more. You had the Gorilla Monsoons, like, let's go off road. You have the Electric Queens, like, let's shred some dirt.
Cool. So when did you leave QBP?
I left almost 4 years ago now. In March of 2019 was when I resigned my position.
And when did you start Wilde?
So just a couple of things I want to. It's funny, like my boy Nick's in the chat. Nick did the Log Lady. He was a product manager with me at AllCity. So hi, Nick. A couple things I want to touch on, though, just about leaving. AllCity. So, I made a lot of mistakes. I had this vision, right? And I had this dream, and I pushed at it at all costs. Like, I never found a battle I wasn't willing to fight over the most minute stuff. And, I put an expiration date on it. If any kind of non-conformity is only going to be tolerated for so long. And I often held things too close to my chest, and I didn't let my team members own their stuff and express themselves and grow. And I made all these mistakes, and a lot of it was tied to the fact that, so I grew up with ADHD, and I grew up kind of feeling very defective, right? I've always had low self-esteem, low self-worth. And I was like, no matter how big of a screw up I am, I have this job and this thing. And like, so I must be doing good. Like, I'm not a total failure. Like, I have some value in the world. Right. And like, there were all these emotions tied up in being Jeff from AllCity. And so when it was time to move on, it was this huge blow because I no longer had this fallback thing, this crutch to that I could use to feel like I have some sort of value in the world, that I have some sort of self-worth, or that I have, you know what I'm saying?
Right.
And so first of all, it was one of the hardest things I've ever done. Certainly the hardest breakup I've ever had in my adult life. But also, it's been absolutely the best thing ever. Like, I've given my chance. Like, I'll never conflate my value as a human being and my self-worth with my job again.
It's a hard thing to do, especially if you do something for a long time. Like, your identity just gets wrapped up with the thing, and like, its success and failure, is your success and failure.
Yeah. And so I left in 2019, and I went on a several month, or like a month and a half long road trip, which was amazing. And I was just kind of left with myself, and everyone in my life was super supportive. My partner, she's amazing. She always has my back. She's super wonderful. But I got to kind of go on this, like, I think I was 39 at the time, so I was like on full on like midlife crisis mode, like resetting and like finding myself. And it's just been the best journey in the world. And I don't know. I guess the reason I launch into this, because I don't want anyone to think, yo, you're not your job, you're not what you do. You're a human being in this world, and you're beautiful, and you're wonderful, and you have so much value. And I hope you never lose sight of that. That's what I'm trying to get at. But so I was 2019. I'm riding my bike all the time, having the best time, and I get approached by this dude named Paul. And Paul owns a company called Donkey Label. I don't know if you're familiar with that clothing company, but he had an interest in a bike company called Stomper. Sorry, like, you didn't ask for this, but I'm like giving you.
Go for it.
So Stomper's cool. They were making bikes in Oregon, and they had moved their production facility here to Minneapolis. And he brought me in to kind of be his mechanic. And then from that, it was like found out like that I could do all these other things. So I started getting involved in Stomper and was working on developing a US supply chain for them. And I was learning how to paint, which was amazing. Painting bikes is so fun and so cool. As like somebody without, I'm a creative person, but I don't have like artistic skill. And so to be able to do this thing, to express myself, and as long as you got the mechanical fundamentals down, it turned out pretty good. It was really neat. So I had a blast working with Paul, but I got offered a marketing position with Soup Horse in Portland. So like I left a Stomper operation, and I was ready to move to Portland, which was an amazing opportunity. But then the pandemic happened. Like I was like literally like a week from leaving Minneapolis and moving to Portland, and like everything shut down.
Right.
So now I'm in Minneapolis and I got nothing to do. And I had built one frame, a titanium, the first titanium earth ship, while at Stomper, and I had painted it myself. It said Wilde, and someone hit me up and they were like, "Hey, can I get one of those?" And I was like, "Yes, you can."
As a matter of fact.
And like from there, it was just like, I don't know what else to do with my life. Like I know how to do this. QBP taught me how to do this one thing, which is run a bike company. And I applied for jobs, and I was like, well, I'm going to leave Q and like, I'm going to land like these big leadership roles at all these companies. And
Right.
like I thought my QBP resume was just going to open so many doors, and it just didn't. Like I applied at Polaris because they're local. And they're like, what kind of budgets are you used to working with? And I gave them an honest answer. And it's like, they tousled my hair. And like, my ass on the way out. It's like, well, that's cute, kid. Ooh, ooh. You know what I'm saying?
Right.
So it's like, I don't know. I have this skill. Like, let's do it. And so I started building Wildes. And then, people saw that I kind of like, that I can do this. I was doing it. We had steel earth ships, we had tie earth ships. I had my tie hardtail, and Josh Klauk, my business partner Josh, and his business partner Andy are at the Angry Catfish, and they're like, "We're interested," and it was like, "All right, it's on." Like we're going to build our bike brand, and we've been off to the races ever since.
And this was like 2019 or 2020?
2020. Was when January 2020 was the first Wilde titanium earth ship, my personal bike. And then by 21, I had steel production bikes going. And then they came on board in 21, in like June of 21. And that gave me the financial resources to pursue Taiwanese manufacturing as well as US manufacturing.
So let's back up a little bit. Like how would you define the brand Wilde? Like who's it for? What's the focus?
So, like my tagline is a love letter to cycling. And like, this is all of my hopes, dreams, passion. Like my whole life has been leading to this moment. Like this is like the thing that makes all my journey and my, like all the weird random skills and like shit, like makes sense. Right. It's our time to do it. And, I'm in the business of saying yes. Like what really gets me excited is to co-create people's dream bikes with them. And the whole thing for me is that we have no constraints or limits or regular stuff. We have our production bikes, and that's awesome. And then any other weird stuff you want to do, like, yeah, I'll try that. It's like, you want to do this? It's like, yes, I do. Do you want to do that? Turns out I do. Like whatever you can dream up, like I will put my skills to making that thing come to reality. And it's been really cool because, I have so many customers who've never had a bike that fit them right in their adult life. Like I had a guy come to me, he's 6'7", and he's like, I think I'd like biking more if I had a bike that fit. And it's like, yeah, dude. Like since you've been at your adult height, you have never had a bike that fit you. We can fix that. Like we get to be the people that fix that for you. And like, he loves his bike. Turns out, and I have, shorter riders, same thing. And it's, I don't know, it's just such a privilege that one, they select us to do this with them. And then I don't know, so I ride every day. I ride every type of cycling. I love it all. And I'm, the one sure thing in my life is that every time I get on my bike, my life gets better. Whether it's just being kinder to people when I get off the bike, because I had that time alone in the saddle, or if it's getting healthier, or if it's just, the splendor of being in nature, or just moving through the world. Like bikes are, I mean, I don't know if you know this, but bikes are pretty great.
Turns out.
And it's like I get to share that with everyone. And we can't do a lot of stuff because we don't have any money that I want to do.
So it sounds like Wilde is an umbrella brand. You'll do custom bikes, but also production bikes.
Yeah. What makes Wilde, I think, unique and special, the proposition of Wilde, is that we will have, as of this spring. So like USA made stuff is amazing, and I'm a big booster of domestic manufacturing. That's something that's important to me. I don't love that, an Earthship costs $2,500. So now we're going to have bikes that are more accessible and more affordable, that our dealers can buy and will make a better margin on, because the margin on USA made stuff is really tough, especially when you have a dealer and then a consumer. Part of my motivation is I just want to work with my friends. Like I get to be in business. The best part of AllCity was that I got to be in business with GSE and Kyle, and I got to be in business with Goldfinch and Logan, and Russell at Cycle East, and Jared from Hope, and like my business helped their business. My dreams helped their dreams. And so like that's huge to me. And so now we have these Taiwan stuff that's more accessible and helps support our dealers, better, because they're making more margin on it. And it's super cool. And like, that's what's neat about, is that we have this, production level product, and then you can step up to a USA made production product in steel and titanium, or even aluminum if you want. And then we can also go full custom. So I think it's cool, because if somebody really vibes with Wilde and they're into what we're into, we have the ability to grow with them. Whereas, with a brand like AllCity, we would have customers outgrow us. And like, that was super rad. It was like, you got a Cosmic Stallion, and now you're getting a custom from your local frame builder. Like, that was a win for us. Graduating people into the church of cycling. But Wilde gets to serve them at hopefully at all these points. And, you can't outgrow us, because we'll build whatever the hell you want.
Nice.
I've got a customer who has 3 Wildes already. Or he just ordered his 3rd, and it was, I have an Earthship, and I have a full Wolf, a cross race bike, and now I want a steel fork from Lamarche Cycles over here. It's like, hell yeah, Tommy's my boy. Like, his forks are amazing. Their flat tops they're to die for. So he's going to get that fork, and we're going to build him the frame, that fits 2.2s and is a gravel frame, not a mountain bike frame. And it's just cool, because I'm in the business of saying yes.
Nice. So what's for like the custom stuff, like how long is that process from when someone comes to you and says, hey, I want a Wilde bike, to it being delivered?
Typically 3 to 4 months.
Okay.
We're trying to always shorten it. And I got myself in a lot of trouble early on, kind of over promising. And there has been, this is a like post-pandemic state, 3 to 4 months, because during the pandemic, it was so hard to get frame parts and tubing and whatnot. There were just so many challenges, but those roadblocks are being removed right now, and things are getting back to normal. But 3 to 4 months is pretty typical turnaround, regardless of material. And, we do Cerakote, and we do anodizing, and we do wet paint, and we do powder. So there's some variation depending on how busy those vendors are. Like,
right.
For someone who wants a really fancy, ano job, and we go to Agave, he's a true artist, and, he may be busy. So it just kind of depends a little bit.
Cool. So what are things that you learn when you were at AllCity that's changing your approach with Wilde? Now that you have a fresh slate.
I mean, as more people want to get involved with it, I'm trying to really apply that lesson of not holding stuff so tightly in my hand, that and really giving them the ability to emotionally invest and to see their work. And it's just as I think as you grow as a leader, it stops it stops becoming about your vision and it starts becoming about their vision and how can I help other people become their best and grow into what they want to grow into. And so and I have to fight my selfish impulses to get there, but that's kind of really the biggest lesson. And like I said before, just as a way of being, I'm not wild. Like this is my, the thing that I do, and I'm going to do it with all my heart and soul, but I'm not that, and that's not my value to the world or to my partner or to my friends or to myself.
Mm-hmm.
So
that's good perspective. I try to do that with the YouTube channel. Like I try to remind myself, you're
so much more than your clicks, buddy.
Yeah, I do the YouTubes, but I'm not, like my core identity isn't as a YouTuber. Like there's other things. There's life outside of this box.
And the thing is, one of the biggest things I think is that there's a butt for every seat kind of deal. So like when we made the Space Horse, I didn't like that bike at all, but people loved it. So who cares? And I grew to love it, and now it's my one of my all-time favorites. And but you know what I mean? It's just like no matter what you do, there's gonna be somebody who's super stoked on it, and so that takes a little bit of the pressure off.
I hope that's true. We're just trying to do some really niche collab components with Soma.
The BarCon.
Yeah, I pitched to him. I was like, I don't know how many people are going to be into this, but I really want it because it's but so we'll see.
But I've always been curious. It's like it just seems like a thumb shifter, for instance. It's like the most simple thing. It's like a cable that holds. It's a piece that holds a cable, and it's like a little drum you turn. Like,
right.
Why are we not still making these, and why are we not making incredible ones?
Yeah. Cool. Well, we've got 160 people in the chat. Let me know if you guys have questions for Jeff, and if you guys own a Wilde, or if you own an AllCity. Which one's your favorite? So let's talk a little bit about this event that you're putting it on. What's it called? The Hodag? Is that right?
Yeah. So I've been self-employed for 4 years now, right? And so between Bike Jerks and I have a Made in USA company, Holy Mountain, and then now I'm trying to I've always done events. So like AllCity was named after the AllCity Championships, my full city alley cat that I would throw every year. And then I've always done Bandit Cross and all this other stuff. I decided that I love throwing a party. I love throwing events. And so I want to try to make that part of how I, earn my living in this world. And so last year was the first Hodag Country Ramble. And, I got into it kind of like, I was like, I'm going to try and make some money. And it quickly became so much more than that. So this takes place on my family's land in northern Wisconsin, right where I grew up, was born and raised. Like those are the streets and stuff that I grew up riding. And it just became, I don't know, it's just, my parents, like now they follow my Instagram and stuff. They don't, like my life is ridiculous to them. It's ridiculous to anyone, really. But I got to share my community, my world with them, right? So until you experience the power of the cycling community, you don't get it. Mm-hmm. I got to bring all of these amazing people from all over the country to them. And then I also got to share them and this place with all of these amazing people. And like, that became the thing. And also, like I always have to be working, right? So my problem is that I have to work, and the Hodag gives me work to do at my parents' house. Mm-hmm. And so I get to, they're getting up there in years, and I'm doing my best to cherish them, as much as I can while I have them. And so like this gives me a reason to be there. It's given me the ability to, because when I grew up, we didn't ride, we rode gravel, but that was just like to get to my friend's house. Right. All the roads, that's what the roads were. We didn't ride gravel like that, like we do now. and I grew up mountain biking, so it was all about the mountain bike trails. So now I'm discovering all these amazing 2-tracks and logging roads and all this other stuff that I just, wasn't on my radar when I was, 16, 17 years old. So like that's been super cool. And the deal with the Ramble is that it's not it is a party pace, alt cycling, supple life, hashtag all that. It's all that. It's just a community gathering with cycling.
What's the format? Is it like people camp out and it's like a multi-day thing?
Yep, they arrive on Friday. Some people arrive early, just because we do Bandicross on Friday night, and then Saturday morning are the big organized rides. And there's 3 distances. Last year they were 25, 50, and 85 miles. And then Saturday night is family dinner, so my friend Adam Blake, he's a chef. He came in and made everyone dinner. And like that to me is really the essence of it.
Mm-hmm.
It's bring your table, bring your chairs. We're all going to sit down and be together. And as well as, there's just after going to Grinduro and, going to the Nutmeg Nor'easter, that was a hugely influential thing. Like after I went to Nutmeg, I was just like, oh, I got to do this in the West, Yeah. It was just such an uplifting experience. It's like, oh, we got to do that. And then we have a bonfire and a party on Saturday night after family dinner. And yeah, that's it. It's not a race. There's all options are valid. I bill it as a ride/tour.
Mm-hmm.
And I just had the best people came. And, my dad will never like, he keeps it close to the vest with me because he's like an old school dude who wasn't like taught to express emotions. But like seeing the look on his face when people came up and were like, oh, it's beautiful here. Thank you for allowing us to be here. Thank you for having us. Like,
right.
Dude, he was, he was on the moon.
Right.
It was just, I'm going to tear up because I'm talking about my dad. And I love him.
That's such a cool experience to be able to share like your passion with your parents. Because I feel like that's pretty rare.
Well, I live this, like I said, I live this really I live a weird life, and it's very unlike any of the models for how you live a life that I grew up with. And I got to, my sister got to be there and work an aid station. She got to chat up all the racers when they came to my parents' house, for the feed. And she was so excited about that. And she's like, oh my Jeff, one of them is on a Wilde, like this genuine excitement for it. And, I don't know. I just haven't had that opportunity to share this thing that I've built my life around that I give my whole self to with them. And so it was magic.
Yeah. Cool. Let's see. I'm going to go through the comments real quick. If you guys have any questions, be sure to ask. Here's kind of a nerdy tech question from John. He says he loves traditional frame geometry, but also tie. Is there something about tie that doesn't do well with traditional geometry, horizontal top tubes? I mean, I feel like there are tie bikes with horizontal top tubes. Is there any material?
There's certainly nothing with the material, but generally as tires get bigger, standover becomes an issue. There is something to be said for bigger front triangles that hold a larger frame bag. And so I think it's just modern trends and trying to be conscious of people's standover heights, because that's really a big thing, like on the sales floor. Like if someone isn't comfortable standing over a bike, even though once they get on it and ride it, they're not going to buy that. Right. And as now we're designing bikes with such a wide range of tires, like it used to be you're going to run a 23 or a 25. And now it has to be comfortable for you to ride, with a
three wheel sizes
and a 2.1. And so like there's a big difference in like how high that bar can be. But certainly if you want a French fit, Wilde will definitely build you a French fit bike. Like that's not a problem.
Nice. Let's see. All right, we got Sam here. He's going to sign up for the Hodag for sure.
Well, I should also say, so for y'all on here, I am expanding this year. So we're doing the Hodag, but I hope to, at the end of July, do a mountain bike event in Copper Harbor, Michigan, which if you've never been to Copper Harbor, it's crazy up there. It's like the end of the road, like Alaska. It's all weird and like desolate, and there's no cell phone reception. And there's this tiny little town that has like 56 year-round residents, and they have some of the best mountain biking in the world. Nice. And so my buddy owns a campground up there, and we're going to do a similar Hodag Country Ramble style vibe, but with a 40-mile mountain bike course. And that'll be it. I haven't decided on a name. Maybe I kind of want to call it the Rough Stuff Rendezvous, which was a thing that they used to do in cable, but I don't know if Lifetime also bought the naming rights to that. Maybe Rough Stuff Rally, but something kind of in or Keweenaw County Cup or something like that. But Cabo Harbor is the end of the road. It's on a damn ocean. Like Lake Superior is like an ocean, and is really neat. So that's my plug.
Nice. Let's see. You got Tim Fitzwater here, another fellow YouTuber. He said met you in the pizza line in Nutmeg, and generally nice dude. Nice.
Well, thank you, Tim. Thank you for coming to Hodag. Helped us do this year.
Yeah.
Well, and like the thing with Hodag this year is the weather was crap. Like Friday was nice, and then it just rained. It was like 40 degrees and just raining hard day of. So most people like went down to the 50-mile who were planning on doing the long one. But I was so impressed. Like everybody was so stoked, and they had such a good time, and they were such troopers, and nobody complained. And I don't know, it was really neat to see.
Yeah.
It dried up for the party, so we were still able to party, which was really great. But
nice. All right, so Kyle Kelly's going to be there.
I hope so. Like, it would mean the world to me.
Yeah. I do love like that kind of a little bit more casual camp out event. I remember Salsa used to have Ride Camp that we went to a couple times.
There's something special about going to bed together and waking up together.
Right.
Like you got that at Grinduro. Like, I don't know if you ever were at one of those events, but there's something about all of us for the weekend. And, like it's easy to kind of come with your crew and hang out with your crew. But, when you're camped next to someone for a whole weekend, like conversations are going to happen and you're going to meet new people. And I don't know, there's just magic there. I love cabin weekends with my friends and like the extended family. And I don't know, it's just an excuse to have a slumber party. That's all we're really doing.
Yeah, I feel like there are some events like that, like the statewide events like Cycle Oregon, but they're a week long. They're kind of expensive. They price out a lot of people, and it doesn't fit into lots of people's timeline. So to have kind of a similar kind of event where you can bond like that, but in a shorter, more approachable time period, I think is pretty cool.
Yeah, I'm gonna put you on the spot and say I think you should come.
When is it?
It is the September 8th through the 10th.
We'll try.
That seemed very non-committal.
No, we don't know what's going to happen around that time of year, so no spoilers yet. But we'll see. Let's see. So you'd mentioned the Wilde production bikes, and those are en route, or they've arrived, or what's the status of those?
So the first one is a Super Tramp, which is a bike packing bike, and those are on the water right now. We hope to get them end of February. Okay. And then we also have a bike that we've talked less about, the Rambler. Basically, we've been kind of keeping the Rambler a little closer to the vest because, we did the press cycle for the Super Tramp back in December. And we had to because we were hoping to get pre-orders because we needed that money to pay for the second half of the shipment. Like, this is just the reality of being a self-funded, no money, like bike setup.
Right.
I say, don't worry about us. We're going to make it and we're going to keep growing. And so like, don't have any concerns about that when I say that we're broke, but it's just, we're broke. But with the Rambler, we're trying to hold off on doing the press cycle and the announcements and stuff until ideally we actually have them on dealers' floors, because that's just so much better for all of our partners when it's like, hey, here's this new thing and you can go look at it at your local bike shop. It's just more powerful. So the Rambler is essentially, it's very similar to the Earthship with a couple different features. It comes with our carbon fork or a segmented steel fork. And we ordered 300 of them for the year, whereas the Super Tramps, we only ordered 150 of them. I'm hoping that we'll have the finances and the people want them enough that we get to do another batch this year. But it's pretty small production stuff because we're new at this and we're just getting started. Yeah. But I'm excited about the Taiwanese bikes. I think the price points are really solid. The Supertramp's 1200. A Rambler is 1100 with a steel fork and 1400 with a carbon fork. I think that's a really nice price point. And we're building a $3,000 complete with the Supertramp with a GX kit.
Oh, nice.
And a Thompson, cockpit. And I think that's a really killer value.
Yeah. Well, how do you decide like how many to sell as completes as opposed to frame onlys?
Honestly, in numbers, there's really no cap to it. We put it at 10. We're gonna build 10 of these because that was a number I could wrap my head around in terms of getting all the parts and but we're able to do whatever. Like if we get 15 or 20 people who want one of those completes, like we'll figure out how to
make it happen.
Like we can. That's the beautiful. Like we can do anything. And people are like, oh, can I have this? Can I sub this? I want Paul clampers. It's like, okay, like it's your bike. We'll do whatever you want.
Yeah. And so it sounds like with Wilde, you're working on smaller budgets and less resources. What are like some of the things that you miss having? You missed from having resources at Q.
I miss having a team. That's the biggest thing. I work with some amazing people at AllCity, like super talented, passionate, wonderful people. And so I miss them. And I miss not having to worry about money in terms of, can we afford to order these bikes? Can we, which isn't to say like we didn't have carte blanche at QBP, but there was we had a corporate backer. And but it's just a different scale.
Yeah.
I miss a corporate paycheck.
There you go. The stability.
But I wouldn't trade what we're doing. Like this is our chance to build a company that we want to build, to serve the people that we want to serve, both riders and dealers. And I certainly wouldn't trade this at all, this opportunity for any corporate paycheck or whatever. Like,
yeah,
this is the dream. Not a lot of people get to live their dreams, but I'm one lucky dude.
Yeah. So Andrew asked, for their complete Wilde bikes available to see at Angry Catfish. Like if someone wants to see a Wilde, where do they go? Like what dealers have them?
Yeah. There are several completes built up at Angry Catfish. And then, so Supertramps are there, but they're not at any of our other dealers. A lot of our other dealers have frames on display and they're working on building them up. It's just hard for smaller bike shops and
right.
But frames hang and bikes sell, so I'm encouraging all of them to get the bikes built up so people can actually see and touch them. Because it's one thing to see something on the internet, and it's a total other thing to be able to touch it and smell it and feel it, at your local dealer. But that'll all certainly be getting much better this spring.
Yeah. So Kyle Kelly here, good health insurance. one thing to miss.
Well, I make so little money that I'm on state health insurance, and it's great.
That's the secret.
Well, that's it. It's like you either need to make less than 20,000 or you need to make like 40, 50,000 to be able to afford insurance. And
yeah.
I maybe have just said too much about my personal finance. And see where I fall on that spectrum.
There you go. Let's see. So we got someone, boom, register for Hodag. Do you know Jacob?
Hi, Jacob. I look forward to your 42nd birthday.
Nice. All right. So we got 176 people in the chat here. If you guys have questions for Jeff, leave those in the comments below. Also, if you have had ride at AllCity, let us know. Let's see. Kind of a specific question. Michael here asks, can you recommend a high stack gravel bike for older riders? Where does the stack fall in with the Wilde bikes?
High stack is the future. And in a gravel bike, comfortable is fast. Like, and fast is comfortable. You know what I'm saying? Like, I have a bad back, and so all of my bikes have really tall stack. And I was stoked, when I started putting together and seeing what the industry was doing, that stacks are climbing up. But we took that up several notches. So one, if you look at all the Wilde product, we have generally tall stacks. And then if we don't have a tall enough stack, I can build you a custom.
There you
That's
go.
that's the beauty of it. You didn't think I was going to recommend some other bike company, did you? Like,
Crazy.
no, I like Wilde.
Yeah. um, so like who do you feel other than Wilde, and like who do you feel does bike marketing well in the bike industry, that kind of threads that line of like authenticity and, but still getting the job done in terms of getting the message out?
I mean, I honestly thought the best company was Machines. I was really sad to see that there's not good things happening over there. But I thought Machines for Freedom absolutely were just the epitome of inclusivity. Which I don't know if can you say that about a women's brand? I think you can. Like I just thought they did a great job. All their designs were super dialed. Their marketing materials looked great, and it was a really, really inclusive, body positive message that I thought was amazing. I think Crust kills it. I think they do a really wonderful job with it. I'm trying to think of who else I've noticed. I kind of keep my head down.
Yeah.
Like, I only really see things that, like, my friends are involved in. I'm not, like, a huge consumer of I don't know, of marketing materials. I try not to be. I just kind of have my head down on working. So it's hard for me to say, I hope one day, when Wild has a marketing budget that we'll be able to get there too.
Yeah.
And there's a lot of brands that I do think are, like I mentioned, that I think are really aspirational and have done a great job.
Yeah. Here's a good one from Troy. What trends in cycling are you stoked about, and which ones are you not so stoked on?
I mean, I think we're at this magic inflection point right now where the practical stuff is what's really cool, and you have people like Russ and Ronnie and other people championing stuff that's practical, and it's a beautiful thing when practicality and cool, when practicality is the trend.
Right.
Bigger tires, more functionality, higher stacks, more comfort. Less. I don't know. I'm not like stoked on the only trend I think I'm really not stoked on is I don't want to say the commercialization, because that was always there, but like the proification of gravel. It kind of leaves me flat, and I think kind of leaves people out. Just stuff's so expensive, and I don't know. Like I come from Minnesota, and like gravel racing was always free. Like we have this tradition of free gravel racing, and there'd be like 12 or 15, like, which is awesome. But that put a lot of strain on people and on their personal relationships and relationships with their family. And so, I always like to see anyone be rewarded for their work. But, and like the consolidation of these big cycling events under one umbrella, I think is kind of tough to see too. But, like we got Bobby still.
Yeah, there you go. That's true. Let's see. So Peter here, a big fan of Richie in terms of marketing. Another fan of Machines for Freedom. What else we got? Someone here is a big fan of the Log Lady. That's one bike I don't know if you were working there at the time, but I had written an email to Q to try to review, because that's one that looks super fun.
Yeah, I mean, it was a ridiculous bike, but it's super cool, and it's like I said, like one of my greatest joys is seeing some of these things become kind of like cult classics. Like,
right.
Well, there's a depreciation curve for bikes, but now it's like Space Horses are increasing in value. Candy Nature Boys are increasing in value, as are Log Ladies, and it's like, I pray and hope to have like a Grant Peterson kind of like career path.
Right.
So like Bridgestone was always just the biggest influence on me, and the knowledge in those catalogs and race bikes with practical that you could live with, like that whole thing. And so like I look at AllCity, hopefully AllCity was my Bridgestone, and now Wilde's my Rivendell.
There you go. Nice. Cool. Well, that's an awesome note to end on. We're hitting that hour mark.
Me comparing myself to one of the greatest to ever do it. Like that's a little... No offense, Grant.
It's funny. I feel like a lot of people, like I'm a big fan of Grant, so is like Ron and I know Matt from Crust, and it feels like people that discovered them in the early 2000s, late 90s, that have aged and are in the position to create a brand or have some influence, are just
Yeah,
coming
this is
to.
our time. Like we're, I'm 43 now. Like this is my generation's time to lead the cycling industry. And one thought that I want to share is, okay, skateboarding and BMX. Like those were industries, and they were consumers, riders took them over. And the companies that do well are rider owned companies. It's the small ones, companies with heart and soul that really invest in the community, invest in this thing. And it's just like right now, you have all these small brands. And it's like we can have that too in cycling if that's where you put your dollars. Like, yeah, the Specialized might be a little cheaper, but support. So I just want to urge everyone to support the small makers and the smaller companies doing this, because they're the ones who create the culture. Like this is that.
Yeah. The people wagging the dog. Cool. Well, Jeff, thanks so much. For people that want to learn more about Wilde Bikes, where should they go? And same thing with the Hodag.
Yeah. So Hodag Country Ramble stuff up on my personal website, bikejerks.com. There's an events tab. Wilde is wildebikes.com. All of the information is up there. And, like this is just, it's hard for me because I got to remember that like this is just the beginning.
Right.
And, we have so much farther to go. But yeah, Wilde Bikes, check it out. We're trying our hardest. That's what I can promise you. And I think we're making some really cool stuff.
Nice. Cool. Well, on that note, I hope you guys enjoyed this conversation with Jeff. Some people had asked if I was going to turn these interviews into a podcast, and we've kind of made the executive decision to just leave them on the YouTube, because for us, like as creators, podcasting costs money, discovery is not great, and it's just, why would I push people over there when I can make pennies here on YouTube? Damn it. All that to say that if you guys like this content, be sure to like, share, subscribe, check out the merch store. We've got some black/very dark gray party pace grips. Also, if you feel a little spicy, some Punky Brewster grips, of course, stickers, because at the end of the day, I'm just a sticker salesman with a YouTube channel. So with all that said, good night, everybody, and keep the supple side down.